Hello friends, and welcome to a lesson all about line graphing. A line graph can be a fantastic way to record data and also show it visually. Well, you're going to need a couple things to get prepared, and then you're going to need some time as well. But go ahead and get yourself a piece of graph paper, a ruler, and a pencil. Go ahead and take that piece of graph paper and fold it in half so it makes sort of a little book. You're not going to do too much with this little pamphlet just yet, but I'll show you an example towards the end of this video with what you can do to push this project even further. Okay, what you're going to need to make a graph is some kind of topic or question, something that you can measure and over time. So my topic is actually what the temperature is each day, the highest temperature. So on this side of the pamphlet, seeing that there's two pages here, on this page, go ahead and write your topic. Mine is the temperature each day. The next thing we're going to do is set up a table to record your data. So how do we do that? Well, depending on what you're measuring, this is going to be a little bit different. We have to think about the unit of measurement we're using, and we have to think over what period of time are we going to measure. For my example that I'm doing right now, I'm going to measure the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit each day, just once each day. Now, I could do over each hour. I could do each week, although usually you'd want to know about each day for temperatures. But there's other things you can measure. How far did you walk today? Are you keeping track of that? And that wouldn't be degrees, would it? Oh no, that could be like miles? Really? Well, maybe not miles, but maybe. It could also be, how much food did I eat today? Oh, how much work did I get done today? And how would you measure how much work you got done? Well, anyway, there's lots of ways to measure different things. Do ask your parents if you need a little bit of help finding something interesting. They might have something cool that you can keep track of. But for the temperature each day, and if you want to try mine with me, that would be pretty fantastic. What I'd like you to do is create a nice horizontal line. We could say about maybe here, given our title enough room there. And then go ahead and label your unit of time. Mine is days. So I'm going to write day, and actually I'm going to keep track of the temperature for the whole month of March. So in my parentheses here, I've written March, so I just know which day in March it is. On this side, go and put a line, a vertical line running down through your table. And on that side, you need to put what you're measuring. For me, it's the temperature. So I'm going to write temperature. And then I'm going to, in parentheses, put my unit. Could be centimeters or pounds or, well, for me, it's degrees Fahrenheit. Everything that appears down here is going to be a measurement of degrees Fahrenheit. Everything here is going to be one of the days of March. And, well, today's actually March 1st. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 1 for March 1st, and I'm going to go check the temperature. And then I might as well get my table ready to go. I'm going to number up all the rest of the days for March here. Now, if I wanted to do a really long one and I run out of space, I can definitely fit more than one table in here. I can make this a little bit smaller. But now I've got to actually wait for all these days to come up and for the temperature to come up. So I'm going to do this little trick and make time go really fast and show you what I found and how to turn this into a line graph. Ready? Here we go. Wow, that is quite a ride. Here we are 20 days later, and now you can see my table has so much data on it, and I hope yours does too. So how do we take all this data and make it into something visual? Well, we have to set up an axis for each of these points of data. So go ahead and take your fantastic straight edge. Go just a couple spaces up from the bottom of your paper, and starting from a couple spaces from the side of that crease you made, make a horizontal line. In traditional graphing, this is called the x-axis, and this axis is very often for line graphs going to be used to show the passage of time. I'm going to label this axis as day. And again, I'm going to put in parentheses in March because each of these numbers I'm about to label this axis with is a day that actually took place in March from my table. So, and I'll show you a trick with these double digits. I'm going to put a 0 in this space here, and I'll talk about that again in a second, and then label this axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you have more days or more time units than your paper will allow, you're welcome to use a separate piece of paper and make a larger one. Now, you can see I can crunch my numbers in pretty well here, but an alternative would be to turn them sort of sideways and number like this. I'll do my last couple like that so you can see how that works. And I'll hold it a little closer so you can take a look too. See, I put the unit down below the 10 just to give it a little stretch, and I only did it on those last couple just as an example. Okay, once we have the passage of time, we can work on the measurements that we took. So from that corner where that 0 is, go ahead and create another axis that stretches from that corner all the way to the top of your paper. Take note of how many spaces, how many lines you're going through. That's going to be extremely important. And once you have that there, you're going to need to label it as well. It's going to have the same label as this part of your table. What are you measuring? I'm measuring temperature. So make sure to label what you're measuring, as well as put the unit of measurement. Every number that appears on here will be a degree Fahrenheit. There, you can see that there. Okay. Now we've got to number that axis as well. Now, this will be different for everybody. If I'm measuring the growth of something that starts all the way down in the soil, like a plant, I'm probably going to start at 0. But maybe you're measuring something that started at a certain length or a certain distance or a certain temperature, and I did. And actually, it's not something that grows over time. There are graphs that can grow over time or dip over time, and there's others that can bump and weave and wobble. Mine looks like it might be one of those. Looking at my temperatures here, I'm going to look for the lowest temperature. It's 37 degrees. I have to be able to put that on this graph, at least at the bottom. I also need to look at the largest or highest data I have on here, but the highest temperature really for mine, it appears to be 67. So I need to make sure that also fits on here. Counting up all my lines, I have just about 30 or so going to the top there. And the difference between 37 and 67 is 30. But I don't think I really want to start at 37. Instead, I'm going to start at 35. Works out pretty well. I think I'm going to speed this part up so you don't have to sit here and watch this whole bit. All right, I finished numbering my graph, and actually I made just a slight little miscalculation in my highest data point. Well, I'm glad I only have one. I was only able to make it to 66. Now, I could do this right now, but I think I still will be able to make this work anyway. And if I look, I also was only able to go up to 19 here. So what I'm going to do probably is attach another piece of paper to make this just a little bit bigger so I can get everything on there. But I'm glad I made this mistake so you don't have to. Make sure to carefully count your lines in both directions and make sure you have enough space. Or use a separate piece of paper if you like. The reason I showed you this whole thing about folding it like a pamphlet, well, I'll show you in just a moment. It's going to look pretty cool. But now that you have both of each axis labeled, let's get into how to plot your data. These two numbers are going to correlate. They're going to cross. It's a lot like those number boards you might have used, where you brought your fingers together to find the answer. We're going to look at day 1 and find out what data point we have. On day 1, 54 degrees. On here, I look for day 1, and I look for 54 degrees. And there it is, all the way up here. Now, another option I could have done to make this fit a little better is I could have, instead of going by 1s, I could have gone by 5s or 10s. Although that would shorten the height of your graph a bit and might compress the information and the overall visual look of your graph. So make that decision if you feel you'll still be able to see plenty. On day 2, I had 56 degrees, so I go to day 2 and go up to 56. Now the next part is to take that fantastic straight edge or ruler and to connect the first point to the second point. Then I'm ready to find my third, which was 66 degrees, all the way to the very top. That was a great warm day back then. And using my ruler to attach my second point to my third point. Not my first point to the third point. First to second, second to third. My fourth data point there is 60 degrees. On day 4 of March, it was a nice 60 degrees. And I'm connecting that dot too. I'm going to speed the rest of this up so you can watch that graph just flow across the paper. Check it out. All right, well, once you've completed your graph, it should look like this, or maybe yours goes up, or maybe yours goes down, or it might weave around a little bit. And remember, I had to actually omit my last point of data because I didn't have enough to go all the way to day 20, or to actually to the top data point I had, so that sort of worked out. But how do you complete this and make this look even cooler? Well, don't forget, colored pencils can make anything beautiful. I could take a colored pencil and go around each of my points to sort of brighten it up, which might give it some nice visual appeal. I can also decorate any other part of this, put patterns in my table over on the other page, or decorate the letters or words, draw small diagrams. I'll show you another example I did in just a moment on a different topic that I really push the decorations on, and you can try that as well. So that makes those points stand out pretty nicely, and maybe I could color the lines too, or even use 2 different colors to show when something increased or decreased. So when it gets warmer, I'll put red on that line using my straight edge. Ooh, and when it gets cooler, I can use blue. So there are some different things you could do with this. I could have also made each point very important. Like if I'm measuring something to do with food, I could make each point a bologna sandwich or something like that. So they're warm, and then getting cold. But also remember that this is a pamphlet. You could decorate the front with a beautiful title, even the back if you choose. I have another example here that I did. I actually measured the growth of a pea plant that I planted. And so the finished pamphlet looks like this. I decorated it by putting a beautiful title on it, pea plant growth, drawing a pea plant, and also putting the range of dates that I did. I did March 1st to March 20th. And as I open it up, you can see it's quite inviting. I have my table here and my topic, and I also have a graph here that I did with pink points and some pea plants growing up to show that, yeah, my pea plant got much taller. By day 20, it was almost 25 centimeters tall. How fantastic is that? Well, friends, I hope you really enjoyed this lesson on line graphing, and I can't wait to see how you make it yours. Have fun!